Hey guys, how's everybody?
Hola.
What's up, man? Caleb, welcome back. Caleb's been partying down in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
How was that, man?
I don't remember part of it, to be honest. No, I'm just kidding, folks. No, it was great, man. Great getaway, much needed getaway. I love my kids and all, but I needed a little break from them every once in a while.
Everybody needs a chance to recharge, right?
For sure. It was good.
Cool.
Great weekend.
Yeah. So we're back in our regular studio. I say studio. If you guys could see it, you'd be so impressed.
Mind blown.
Right. But part of being back in the studios, we got the chance to bring in some more guys. I have today, Caleb and I, have Jonathan Bates, Skyline Church of Christ. What's going on, man?
Man, not much.
Sweet. And then we got Abel down there at the end of the table. Abel is at the Amory Church of Christ, right?
That's right.
Cool, man. So a lot going on this week. A lot of prep, getting ready for the holidays, but yet still, for some reason, the biggest story is all the injuries going around in sports. I don't know if anybody cares about golf. Brooks Koepka got pulled from the President's Cup. I know Abel down there just stopped crying about Tua's big injury at the end of the season. This is an unprecedented thing. So Abel, I want you to know you are the official first Bammer, if I can say that, on the podcast.
True.
It's kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, it's a real honor to be, to hold that position.
Oh man, Alabama's championships hopes done? Not done. No. Okay.
Never done. We have a committee that we get to handpick. It's called the College Football Playoff Committee, and
you're not lying.
I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna argue with that at all.
They're gonna come in for us this year.
I just know by now you got to be really wishing Jalen Hurts was still there.
There it is.
I've seen the meme going around where it's got Saban on the phone and he's like, "Hey Jalen, it's Nick. Are you busy?"
Man, I don't think I've ever seen a fan base freak out as much as Alabama did when Tua got hurt the first time.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, "No, we have to put in our Heisman Trophy winning backup. Why?"
Yeah.
Just don't understand that. But anyway, we're appreciative that you guys are here. Thank you guys for listening. This is episode 4. We're still going. They haven't shut us out yet.
Yeah,
and it's exciting. So this particular one is we're getting right upon that, the most wonderful time of the year, and my wife is going to hurt me because I made a Christmas reference before the day after Thanksgiving, which is a no-no at my house. But anyway, it is about the time for the holidays. Everybody's kind of excited. Everybody's gearing up for that. So we just want to take a little time this afternoon and talk with you guys about what do you do around this particular time of the year. Is this a time of the year where you speed up? Do you slow down? There's a balancing act for ministers around this particular time of the year because it's one of those times where your kids are probably going to be in town. They don't have school, but they're not traveling a whole lot with sports as much as they do during the summer. And so, what do? Do you try to take advantage of the fact that everybody's there, or do you back off, let them spend time with their families? And, we have our own holiday plans and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So, I don't know. Caleb, what do you think?
Well, and it's like you said, the word balance. We use that in most of these podcasts. Balance is something that we get pretty good at. As ministers, youth ministers, because we all have our families, we have our family time, but we're also hired and we are passionate about these kids' souls. So it comes back to how do you do all of it? And do you just try to kill yourself and just do it all, or do you space it? And for me, I'm not married yet. I'm still single, and for me, I still want to spend my time with my family. And the girl that I'm dating, I want to spend time with her family. So with that, you got time that you have to figure out how you're going to do it. For me, November coming up, we have, this coming Saturday actually, I'm taking my younger ones to the police department and the fire department to deliver cookies. To tell them thank you. Just something small for the community to say thank you. And then Sunday for my older teenagers, we're going to go for our shut-ins and give them a small personalized ham for our widows or shut-in, and give them kind of like a fruit basket, but warm socks, chapstick, just a little goodie bag for them. Again, to say, hey, we're thinking about you, because a lot of times these are people that are forgotten, especially holidays, because you got your widowers, they're alone, and it's tough for them, no family. So the little things like that. But one thing I want to, or what I'm trying to point out of this is I'm doing this the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's this coming Thursday. Well, a week from today is Thanksgiving. So for me, I'll do a few things in the office Monday and Tuesday, and then, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go see my folks. I'm gonna do some deer hunting. It's that time of year, and the kids. My parents, when I was younger, they wanted me to be home for family stuff. And looking back, I was like, man, I want to go do something with my buddies or just get out of here. I'm tired of my family, But I look back and I really appreciate that. I'm grateful for that. And these kids, they need that family time. I mean, yeah, they come home to their parents every day, but the holidays are, as we all know, a special time. So that's for me, that's just a small thing, just a small example for Thanksgiving of what's going on.
Starting to sound like a Hallmark card over there, man.
I've already got one drawn up over
here. No, I see what you're saying, and I think that's a big thing. I don't think people realize how lonely holidays can be until you're in that situation, right? And so you've got people that, I mean, like you said, they kind of are forgotten because we focus on our families and our time, and where there is a place for that. Don't get me wrong. I think you gotta focus on your family too, but we forget sometimes that you've got people out there that, whether or not they're young or old, they don't have a lot of family.
Exactly.
And so it can get lonely for them. So, and I think that's kind of cool for our group personally. We do a project, and it's not super intensive. We spend about 3 weeks collecting a list of items.
Very nice.
And so this particular year, we're actually donating those this year to the battered women's shelter here in Tupelo. And so we assign every youth classroom an item, and you just ask them to bring those in over and over and over again. And so Caleb's not a coffee drinker, and he just took a sip of cold coffee. I'm trying not to laugh at him.
I'm trying to throw up over here.
So, but with my high school kids, so that's what they're going to do Monday. We're going to organize all those baskets, make sure there's a little bit of everything in those baskets, and then have them take it over there and give them a chance to spend some time together and go eat. And then after that, man, we take a step back. So cool stuff about Jonathan. So Jonathan is full-time youth minister, all right, not technically, quote unquote, right? Officially, he's a part-time guy, but we don't like to use the term part-time minister.
It's always full-time.
Right, exactly. It's always full-time. So Jonathan does youth ministry, and you also teach, what grade do you teach?
So I taught at Dorsey Attendance Center, but it's been 2 years ago. I taught 6th and 7th grade math.
Cool.
And after that year, I decided, since me and my wife didn't have kids at the time, still don't yet, but decided it was a good time in our lives to go ahead and go back and go to Bible school, preaching school. And so I'm enrolled right now at Northwest Florida School of Biblical Studies. It is a mouthful. But it's been good, I do tutor, though. I tutor at Dorsey still, so I try to manage my time throughout the day, tutoring, class, and youth ministry. That's a lot, but
a bucket full right there.
I was about to say. So what does this time of year look like for you? I know with everything on your plate, how does that kind of pan out for what you do?
So the good thing about school is when the kids are out, I'm not going to be tutoring either. We also get breaks for my Bible school, so it works out. I'm off too. I'll tell you one thing I was thinking about when Caleb was talking a minute ago. I don't know how your guys' service at times are at church and stuff, but about a year and a half ago, our Sunday service, the evening service, we moved it up, and we have an afternoon service every Sunday. And it has helped me tremendously because I take full advantage of it. Those kids, most of the time, after they're pumped. They want to do something because they don't have anything to do the rest of the day. So
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm jealous.
So this coming up Sunday.
That's not the way Paul did it.
That's right. Yeah. This coming up Sunday though, we have a potluck meal, our Thanksgiving potluck meal, I guess you'd say, and so we're going to have a shorter afternoon service, and we're going to get all of our kids together, and we're going to fix plates, and we're going to take to our shut-ins, and we're going to take time with each one to have all the kids there, give them a plate of food, a Thanksgiving meal, but also I think we're going to try to sing some songs and have a prayer with them, and so I think that'll be good, not only for them, but our kids been able to do that. I think it'll be great encouragement for them too. So, but yeah, the Sunday afternoon helps me out a lot, and I try to gauge if you can do that. As far as I'm all the time asking kids, what do y'all got going on this week,
Right.
and sometimes you're able to find a little window there where you're able to get them together and do some stuff. But it definitely it's a challenge.
Yeah, it is for sure, and you've always got to fight with what are going to be the priorities or whatever. And that brings to mind, I don't even know who it was, but on Facebook I'm a part of a couple of different youth ministry pages, and a guy posted up there. He said, sometimes when I get frustrated, I make T-shirts and contemplate wearing them. And he said I've never actually made one, but he posted one online that said, "If it was sports, your kid would be there." And I was like, ow. I was like,
it's a deep cut.
Yeah, man,
he's hurting.
That's one of those things that, as true as that is, I was like, man,
real.
I don't know that I could willingly wear that around.
Yeah,
of course, Caleb's never been shy about his opinions on travel sports and that sort of stuff. But
you let him know.
Let's not start that.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Abel? What's this kind of year look like for you?
Well, we, balance is the word. We kind of do something for everyone. We've got our congregational service type stuff that we do. I want to know more from Caleb about how you personalize a ham. But
I just saw them at Walmart.
No, it's a personalized size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you signed each ham.
Oh, no.
No.
That would be awesome, though.
You can make an individual brand for each person.
Oh, man.
Love
Christian Chapel stamp on the side of the ham. So don't cook this part of the ham.
No, you're talking about a little ham.
Yeah, a little small.
Little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the reason, for the widows to handle.
For each person, not necessarily personalized.
Instead of like a full-size turkey for this little old woman, we try to take care of
that for the next year, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But what we're going to be doing more of this time around is, of course, you want to spend time with your kids, and you want to find the right way to do that while balancing family time, while making sure that you don't leave anyone out from the congregation as well. And so one of the unique service opportunities that we've got coming up is we have a lady in our congregation who lost her husband this year, and that's been weighing heavy on her. But for Thanksgiving, she's going to have about 30 people in her house. And being an older lady, she doesn't get to do the kind of yard work that she wants to do. And so Friday, tomorrow, after school, I'm going to take about 15 kids over there. We're going to clean out her gutters. We're going to do anything that she needs done in preparation for those 30 people to show up next week. We also do something that my kids love. It's just kind of a unique spin. We call it El Thanksgiving. And we have two restaurants in Amory, El Toro and El Rey. Yep. And we choose one of those to cater a meal for our young people, where it's just us. We get together. We do Spanish Thanksgiving. If you go on Amazon and you type in Spanish Thanksgiving decoration, you're not going to find anything.
Fair enough.
But so we do a Spanish Thanksgiving meal in our fellowship hall for our young people, and they love it because it's an AYG thing. It's nobody else does El Thanksgiving, and so
I'm more of a Chinese guy myself.
What would you call that one?
I don't even want to
Thanks.
go there.
Thanksgiving.
That's a good way to get us kicked off YouTube. Thanks to that one. But no, that is cool. That is cool, and I think that's one of the things that every minister and let's be honest, every family is gonna have to go through. You know, how many families sit down and they have to figure out, okay, this day we got to be here. This day we got to be here with this family. Yeah. You know, it's. My wife and I are it works a little bit for us logistically because we actually have to pass right through where her parents are going to be for Thanksgiving on the way to where my parents are going to be for Thanksgiving. And so that works itself out, but you've got so many people out there that have to pick and choose which holidays to go to. And, you know, with breaks and with kids traveling, and it becomes kind of difficult. And I think Caleb, you know, pointed out, we try to get all this stuff out of the way beforehand. And it's not because we're trying to just, you know, take a break and chill. It's because, you know, we want to make the most of the time that we've got there. And I think that's kind of an important thing to point out.
Will you guys be here like Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, or will y'all leave early on in the week?
Well, we've decided to do where I'm at Christian Chapel. We're having our midweek Bible study on Tuesday night. So that way, I can either go home. For me personally, I'll either go home late, Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
I ain't getting into that right now. I mean, yeah, it is spiritual.
Okay. Just double checking.
Yeah. No, but we decided to do that, and you know. That's the beauty about, you know, we're talking about the seasonal ministry. Each one of us has something different that we're doing. We didn't all have the same exact thing because, you know, let's branch this out from Thanksgiving. You look at Christmas coming up. All right, I know one specific couple, an older couple, about 80 years old, both of them. They got their whole crew coming in. They got kids in Seattle and Washington, D.C. They're all coming in for Thanksgiving. They're going to be here all this next week. But Christmas, and nobody's going to be here. You know, so you've got opportunities. Each season is different. You know, with Thanksgiving and Christmas, I mean, just within a month of each other, it's a lot of opportunities. We all know you got, you know, food pantries that we can do service projects with, our shut-ins, with the seasons changing and outside changing. Yeah. You know, and that's the beauty about this is that we, you know, we're going into Thanksgiving with these Thanksgiving ideas. Well, we got Christmas coming up. These people that are going to be alone that we didn't get to Thanksgiving, let's get them this time.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting. So you've got the plethora of service around this time of year, right? So I guess, to backtrack for a second to ask Abel's question, for us, it's a little bit different because we leave first thing Thursday morning. So my wife's family has always done breakfast on Thanksgiving. They're like, we don't want to trying to mess with anybody else's Thanksgiving lunch or supper or whatever. So they do breakfast. And so we'll actually leave from here, drive about an hour and a half to Jackson, Tennessee, stop for breakfast, and then drive an hour and a half back to Paris for Thanksgiving lunch, and then we'll do a bunch of other traveling that weekend too. But our service will still be on Wednesday night, but we do an abbreviated devotional service, and I like this because it's a giving thanks abbreviated devotional service, but it's exclusively done by the eldership here, which I appreciate. And so they put that on, and it's be the first one that I've been at since I've been here. Last year, just the way Thanksgiving fell and everything, all the traveling that we did, I wasn't here Wednesday night last year, so I get to be here for that this time, so that would be kind of cool. I think future preacher's supposed to be here too, so that'd be kind of cool. Get a chance to meet with him around Thanksgiving. Awesome. So
that's great.
But yeah. So like I said, I like that particular idea, but for us, it kind of works itself out. It's a long day for us on Thanksgiving Day. We drive to Jackson, to Paris, to Greenfield, back to Paris, back to Tupelo, all in 2.5 days. So it's a hectic, few hours, and the worst part is you're just doing all that driving while you're trying to fight that Thanksgiving food coma. And so, that's a real thing. I think we need a public service announcement about the Thanksgiving food coma, how you're supposed to combat that. But now you've got this plethora, if I can use that word properly, of service ideas that get brought to you and whatnot. And I think one of the keys with the balance thing is trying to figure out how to fit them all in. You know, I've got really since the start of October, I've had like 4 or 5 different, people come to me and be like, hey, this is a project, completely unique project, right? So it's like, it's not like I've got 3 people that have found one project and have said, hey, this is a good idea. No, these are 5 completely different projects. Everybody's like, we should do this with the youth group. And I'm like, that's awesome. I appreciate that. But
when are we going to do that?
Yeah, we've got time to do.
There's a part of it that's like, why didn't you come to me during calendar planning?
Yeah, it's, well, and that's the thing. We've got a chance to maybe do 2 of these. Maybe one at Thanksgiving, one at Christmas, and those are great project ideas, but they're all trying to be crammed into a month and a half, or maybe even less than that, from the week before Thanksgiving to the week before Christmas.
Yeah, and they'll bring you community stuff, and
and
all of these are good things. Yeah. But you're like, how do I fit all this in? Right. How do I make sure that this works? We do something cool at Amory. The Wednesday night before, and this has been going on since way before I got there. They do a singing service. Yeah. And prayers, the singing and prayers, and also they have several different scriptures. We stay the whole time, but we have so many visitors on that night. People who used to live in Amory that come back. People who people who don't have family in Amory anymore, but they're coming by, like the legend Chuck Morris, and his brother. They always come. For the singing on Wednesday nights, and it's awesome. Yeah. But it also gets in the way of family, because you're like, well, I really want to go be with my family, but as a minister, I want to make sure that I'm here with my church family, and how do I make sure that no one feels left out? My extended family this year on my dad's side was like, hey, we're going to do like a 3-day family retreat with everybody all coming to the old home place. You can find a hotel to stay in. We're just going to do this big like camp thing. And I'm like, I can show up for half of the day of the 4 days y'all are going to be there. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of something interesting. So let me ask you guys this is just kind of curious. So the way Thanksgiving fell this year, being like at the very end of November, was that better or worse for you guys calendar wise?
Actually, a little bit better.
Better?
To be honest. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the only one that it actually was a little bit worse.
Yeah. Here we go, Nathan.
Well, it sounds like you have to eat 8 meals in one day, though. So
that's true.
I know. Somebody's gonna have to preach on gluttony. No, it was, and it was both, right? So it worked out better for the ability to be able to put some of these projects in before Thanksgiving. Sure. I think the actual weekend is what's going to be difficult. Yeah. So normally Chelsea and I wouldn't come back until Sunday afternoon. That being said, we got to come back Saturday night because we've got so kind of like with the Morses come back, Chris Britt comes back after Thanksgiving every year, gets to preach here, and then that night is the youth area wide here at West Main. And so when you've got a 3-hour trip and the church in Paris doesn't get out till about 12:30. You're like really crunched for time if you get to leave at 1 at the earliest to get back an hour before your 5 o'clock area wide. So
just wait till you get to do that with a baby.
I know, everybody keeps saying that, man. Man, I get one more holiday season where I don't have to worry about lugging around 8 pounds of. Yeah. I'm not gonna say worthless.
It'll be more than worthless. Oh dear.
That's what I'm not going to say.
We get to restart the podcast
already in the doghouse.
No, I said I wasn't going to say worthless. No, it's the.
It was implied.
It was implied.
It was the completely dependent.
Yeah. Sure.
And depending on the kid, there's a particular age. There's at a particular age where you finally get to tell a kid, hey, go get in the car, as opposed to have to track them down, pick them up, go put them in the car.
Say, come here 8 times.
I guess we knew what you meant, Nathan.
Yeah, whatever. A lot of shade being thrown for the only not married guy in the room.
Exactly. Clean it
up. But anyway, I was just kind of curious about that with you guys, how that kind of calendar fell. Did you guys bring up a good point, something we're going to address. So there's all these service opportunities, right? And everybody wants to come to you and bombard you with, hey, you should do this, hey, you should do this, hey, you should do this. There's a meme out there, by the way. It's I don't know if you guys know the flex tape infomercial where the dude smacks the big thing with there's gushing water out, and the dude slaps it, and on the sticker it's like, this would be a great job for the youth group, and like that's the fix. So like I think he's labeled with things adults don't want to do, and like the big fix is we should make this a service project for the youth group.
That's awesome.
So why do you guys think it is that, I'm not gonna say we only, but it seems like sometimes that 90% of the service project and the giving stuff only tends to happen like the last month and a half of the year? You know, why don't we do more service in the middle of March? Or I mean, I know why we don't do it in July, right? Because it's hot.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be outside cleaning gutters in 107-degree heat, and I get that. But like, what do you think that is? And that was a question that, in all honesty, I think my secretary asked me. She's like, "How come we don't ever do anything except for at Thanksgiving?"
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about maybe a congregational project or a youth-related, you know, giving, that sort of stuff. You know, what's wrong with taking? And I'm not picking on you, right? But you know, what's wrong with taking cookies to the police officers? You know, April Fool's Day. I'm just curious.
Razor blades and the cookies.
Well, you know, and it's something that we're all, I would say, guilty of it. We get so caught up in our events, our big events. For me, I mean, I'm speaking for myself here. It's something that I guess it slips our mind. To be honest, I mean, it's something that we know is there. We know it's available at any time. But a lot of times we get so caught up in everything else we're doing that we forget. We need to probably go pick some limbs up in so and so's yard. You know,
Right.
I mean, like I said, I'm speaking for myself here. I'm just as guilty as the next. But I don't know. That's for me. You know.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, throughout the year, you have this big schedule. You know that everything's going on.
Yeah.
I know from January to like May, we have. End of December you start EYC, and then we have Lads to Leaders, and then we have Maywood Retreat. We have another weekend deal we go to, and so you've got it back to back to back, and then you try to fit in other things, and it's almost just like the mindset's there that this is when we're doing it. It's always been that way, which I do try to use the time around this time of the year every year to. When we do these service projects, when we do stuff like that, to try to encourage them and teach them, hey, this is what we need to be doing all the time. You know, we need to have this mindset all the time. So,
well, and I think there's simple issues too. You know, this one of the only times during the year that you don't have to fight school. Right. And so it's a little bit different around here. So like where I grew up going to high school, there was no chance you got out of school before 3:15 every day. Like you were required to be in class at 3:15 every day. And so I get down here and I've got 6 high school students that are like, oh yeah, I'm done with school at 12:45. I'm like, how did you do that? And so it's just one of those things. You don't have to fight with school. You know, there are so many other events, and we talked a lot on here about the idea of that the podcast that we sat down with Chase Searle. You know, a busy calendar doesn't mean it's an effective calendar. And I'm not saying that that service is ineffective, because I think that's one of the things that you probably could put on your calendar that would make it a more effective calendar as opposed to just busy. But it's one of those things that for some reason or another, and I think a lot of ministers, not all, but I think a lot of ministers are guilty that service projects like that just kind of get dropped down on the calendar. And I don't know if it's subconsciously we know that it's easier to get kids to sign up for EYC or CYC or Last of Leaders, and you know, telling all the kids, hey look, meet here at 4:00 Thursday afternoon, we're gonna go, you know, rake leaves for people. You know, I've done service projects where I showed up at the church, you know, Saturday morning, and it was me and an elder. And I just kind of sat there. I was like, I guess we're not going to go rake leaves today. So, you know, it was one of those things. I just kind of wanted y'all's feedback on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Abel, what do you think?
I think that a lot of the, kind of like what you were hinting at there, a lot of it has to do with attendance. They're there. Now they're there in the summer,
but they're not really.
But they're not really there.
Yeah.
They've got. I guess it just really hit me about the second year of youth ministry, where I realized I've planned out this calendar, I've planned out this thing to do, and really the only input that I had in creating this was a few parents that I asked, hey, what do you think about this? By the time my calendar was out, these parents have already planned their calendar like 8 months ahead.
Oh yeah.
As to what they're going to be doing every week for that 8 month period. And I get it. That's how you survive. That's how, as a family of four or whatever, you, with two working parents, you juggle all of that. But, coming together to rake leaves, or coming together to mow a yard, or coming together to do service baskets or something like that in today's society is going to be something that's down on the totem pole compared to here's what I planned to do 8 months ago. And so in the summer, they've already they call it summer vacation, but it's not really a vacation anymore. It's time where you're not tied down to a school. And so
well, that's one of those things. This whole podcast was kind of the idea of seasonal ministry, and we're just kind of talking about that because we're right there. So I think the traditional view of youth ministry is like, technically this is supposed to be a slower time of year. Summer's your busy season. And I don't know that I buy into that anymore. I think that they're all busy seasons, and it's just kind of a different kind of busy with, in all honesty, sometimes you've got different kids. Your travel ball kids are generally, out during the summer. They're kind of there during the fall. I've got a girl right now, love her to death. She plays travel soccer, and so I don't really. That's almost year round, and I don't really know what she's going to be at, what she's not going to be at, and so it's just one of those things that I think it's all the busy season, and I think it's how you handle the part of the busy season that you're in at the moment. So it's just an interesting concept to fight around as a minister, but also as a parent, right? And I think sometimes we overlook the idea that parents are juggling all of this just as much as we are, right?
Right.
So, and I've never actually sat down and asked a parent, and maybe that's a fault of mine, right? I've never actually sat down and asked, be like, hey, for the next 6 weeks, would you rather us do some service stuff for your kids, or would you rather just be like, hey, I'm just going to sit at home and enjoy time with my family?
Right.
Because parents juggle this just as much as ministers, right? We think that we juggle it because we're planning the event, but then you've got parents that are juggling it because the youth minister planned another event. Right. The youth minister planned another event. Yeah. So it's one of those things. But general rule of thumb, let's go around the table here. General rule of thumb, Caleb, do you speed up or slow down during the holidays?
For me, I try to slow down.
Slow down.
That's me. As we talked about try the family time. I'm all about family time.
Yeah.
That's just me. I've talked to my elders about it. They're 100% with it. I would. If we've got time, I may tell my boys next Tuesday, hey, let's just go camp in the woods. It's something that we can do at ease. But for me, I try not to do just a whole lot, because for me, even though my parents are an hour and a half away, I still don't get to see them that often. I ain't seen them really in 2 months. So, for me, I'm ready to go home for a little while to see them.
Hey, what about you?
I stay busy, but it's a different kind of busy.
I get that.
The fall and holiday season for me is filled with, I think for Caleb too, he does a lot of this. We go to a lot of ball games, and we in fact we overlap because Caleb and I go to in the same county. We overlap at a lot of these places, but my day to day is different. I actually had I don't know. I guess I've arrived, guys. No, I'm kidding. But I had a younger youth minister reach out to me just a couple of days ago asking kind of a question like that. He told me, he said, I feel less busy right now than I have. Summer was busy, and then he got married. And he said, now I feel like my day isn't filled with ministry, and that's a strange feeling.
Yeah.
And again, it felt really weird for a guy. He just graduated college and was reaching out. Just he's in his first work and kind of, you know, when we all arrive, we've all felt it. When you get there and you walk in your office for the first time, you're like, well, now what?
Yeah.
And so he's kind of going through some of that right now. This is the first fall he's ever done, you know, in full-time work. And what I told him and what I've tried to do is my ministry is different. I'm planning ahead. We're intern shopping right now at Amory, so you know, little intern plug out there. Send your resumes. But we're
intern shopping. That's a new one. I don't know that I've heard that one yet.
We're looking for a summer intern, and so I'm busy with that. I'm also teaching 2 classes, and so I get to do a lot more of that kind of ministry work. I do work as the associate at Amory, and so I'm doing a lot more congregational ministry during this time. I still am doing my passion work, which is with the kids and finding time to spend with them. But as far as like planned events and things like that, it's a lot more casual. It's a lot more laid back, and it's a lot more looking forward to the spring and and making sure that for the quote unquote busy times, I'm still putting in as many hours, but it's just different work.
Yeah,
sure.
Jonathan, what about you, man?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. And I also think even when you take this time to go and be with your family, at least for me, I have trouble not having my mind on something anyways. Mm-hmm. So it's not really slowing down that much. You know, maybe you're not there in person, but your mind is definitely thinking about what the next thing is and you know, some of your kids, how you're helping them out. But I definitely take the time to go and be with family, especially obviously Thanksgiving Day, and it's just a different kind of speed there because, like you were saying, Nathan, I think this Thanksgiving I'll be at 3 or 4 different places in one day, you know, and so I'm still thinking about the things that we have going on, and you know, I keep in contact with some of the kids with different things that are going on, but maybe it's just a different kind of speed that, you know.
Well, that's kind of the way I am. So ministry philosophy, right? The idea is slow down. Yeah. Don't plan as much stuff. Right. Give you guys a chance to be with your family, because that's my thing. Like I'm big on promoting family time, not just for me, but for my kids, you know. And I told from day one I got here, I told my parents, look, I was like, you guys are going to be way more effective than I'm going to be. And I think you guys know what I mean when I say that. It's the idea that no matter what I try to, you know, ingrain in your children, if you contradict it, you're the one they're around all the time.
Right, for sure.
And so I want them to spend time with their families. I want them to be with them, but it is kind of the same thing, right? So because I have less events, I'm doing and going and seeing more, right? So, you know, my wife and I were at a soccer game on Monday, basketball game on Tuesday, band tonight. We got a play to go see this weekend. And so it's one of those things that it is a different speed. It's a different kind of busy. And honestly, that's the busy that I like. Yeah. That's just my personal opinion. I'd so much rather just be going and watching and telling kids, you know, that was awesome. You did such a good job. Oh, yeah. I love that part. And
you're out among your people.
Yeah,
that's right,
man. For me, the slowdown probably comes more at the Christmas time. Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I'll get to take a couple of days at Thanksgiving, you know, do all that, come back, and then at Christmas, you know, we get to take kind of like almost a whole week. Yeah. You know, I got a trip planned with my dad and my brother. We're gonna have a blast, and you know, get a chance to, you know, see my parents, see my wife's parents, and it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how well my very pregnant wife holds up during all this too. So that'll be So that'll be really interesting as well. But you know, I don't know. And again, I guess kind of a fault of mine. I guess I've never sat down and asked a parent, you know, do you appreciate the slowdown or the speed up? Because, and I don't know if you guys have ever encountered this, but I've encountered a couple of people that are like, no, don't let me slow down and spend time with my family. You know, I I don't know that I want to be with my family all day, every day for 2.5 weeks. You know, give me an excuse to get out of the house. And so I think you got to play with that balance too, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, but you know, we have this idea of seasonal ministry. You know, we kind of talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of it all. You know, there's a lot of great things about the holidays, and you know, sometimes the holidays though can be a little bit bad because the holidays, you know, and it's kind of interesting. And so, tell me if I'm off base on this, right? But it's kind of interesting. As much as we focus on giving and service around the holidays, it almost seems like we become entirely more selfish around the holidays because we're focused on, hey, look, this is good and all, but this is my time. I'm going to slow down. This is my, you know,
I'm ready for that whatever for Christmas.
Right. You know, oh gosh, that happens every year, right? You know, you've always got. And then you've got the Sunday after Christmas where everybody comes back and be like, what'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get?
Whatever for Christmas goes out the door as soon as you have a young'un. Your parents forget you exist.
I believe that.
It's not about you anymore, huh?
And Christmas becomes about the little one, which is so much fun because Christmas becomes about the little one for you too.
Yeah, well, and see, I'm not even sure that my kid's not even here yet. And I'm not even sure that what we're going to get for Christmas this year is going to be anything more than everything for the kid that's not here yet. So
that's true.
You know,
from
I'm
experience,
thinking,
definitely right.
I was sitting there like, this could be my last Christmas. I was like, nope, my last Christmas was last Christmas.
Well, and like Caleb and I have an interesting intertwined history because we both ended up growing up in Corinth. I finished my growing up in Corinth. He was in Corinth the whole time. We ended up with the same youth minister at 2 different times. I was in his youth group at one congregation, and then he moved across town, and Caleb was in his youth group. And so it was the philosophy that he kind of fed us, and the philosophy that was majorly accepted at that time was, especially after Christmas, give the kids something. Give them something to do, give them something to be involved in. And so we did what, may it rest in peace, we did On Solid Ground. It's no longer a retreat. But
a long time.
It was, Anyway, OSG was awesome, but it was something that was hard because for somebody like my family, we wanted that week. You know, we wanted that time to go be with extended family, but we felt like we had to support the youth events, and so. But then there were some kids who were in our program who were like, they need this. They don't need to be sitting around because the philosophy of the time was if kids are idle, they're going to get in trouble. And so.
Well, I told you guys about that. You know, right before we went on recording. You know, everybody. I think Caleb's not because he's got to be at a wedding. But we talked about EYC, which is, you know, a conference that they do. Was it Birmingham or is it Huntsville? Huntsville. So it is in Huntsville, and it's always, was it the 26th, 27th, 28th?
Last weekend.
27th through the 30th.
27th. One of those weekends. But it's always that weekend that follows Christmas, right?
Yep.
So it's one of those things that, you know, that's one of those things that right after Christmas, you want to be able to do that. And, you know, I've told the parents here, if you want to go and do that as an individual, that's fine. You know, if that's what your family wants to do, I was like, but that is, and again, maybe the selfish thing coming out, I'm like, but that's the one time at Christmas that my wife and I get to travel to see our families. And so I've got a hard time wanting to jump on board with that, knowing that that's when I get to see my family.
Absolutely.
You know, and I grew up, and I can't say what everybody did, but I grew up in a family that, you know, the family was big. And that was it. You know, that was your priority. There was, you know, if your family needed you, that's where you were supposed to be. And I've caught some flack because I've, you know, put some priorities over some family crisis every once in a while. But it's one of those things that it's hard. And, you know, from a minister perspective, from a parent perspective, it's all about trying to find and take advantage of what is that balance that you find during the holidays, and then that season right after the holidays, and then you run into the graduation season. You've got early part of summer, then you've got camp, and you've got right in the middle of summer, and then you've got back to school season.
And suddenly you've done the circle.
Right, and then all of a sudden you're back to Thanksgiving. You're like, where on earth did all the time go? And so it's one of those things that, again, you just kind of hit it season at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
And between all the things that we have that change, you've got all the things that your kids that change from season to season to season, and so that's another big aspect of seasonal ministry.
Kids are going to cycle in and out.
And watching them, being able to connect with them. So this is going to be interesting for me personally. I'm about to start my quarter off, and what that is in my contract, I'm required to take 1 quarter off from teaching every year. And so this year I'm off December, January, February, specifically because, that's when I was supposed to have my kid. And so, that's going to be interesting. So what is my relationship going to look like now that I'm not seeing my kids every Sunday morning, Wednesday night for 3 months? And so that's going to be kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So I'll chime in there. When I first came to Skyline, that was kind of the thing, and I thought it was nice because they were trying to give me a break a little bit. You know, I mean, as y'all know, preparing something for class every Sunday and Wednesday, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to prepare those classes,
so especially if you're not like mixing the two curriculums.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yes. And after that first quarter I had off, I went back and said, "Look," I said, "You can give me a Wednesday night or a Sunday off every now and then." I was like, "But we've got it now where I'm always teaching Sunday morning, and every now and then, I'll get Wednesday night off, and I think it's good every now and then for the kids to hear somebody other than me too,
For sure.
And it works out that way, but it took a toll. I felt like I didn't even know them, even though I was getting with them other times. I was like, that's a good time that you're there with them, and you get to study the Bible with them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, and so I'm hoping what it does for me is because the elders want us to do this specifically to let me and my wife, be able to attend a Bible class together, and so what I'm hoping it does with me is it gives me the ability to, or it makes me strive to seek these kids out more, and not just take it for granted that I'll check on them Sunday when I see them in class. That's what
a personal challenge.
That's kind of what I'm hoping it does. And so I'll be off on Sundays, and then Wednesdays we're doing a teach thing. So I'll have them for 3 weeks in December, and then they're going to observe classes, and then they're going to teach, our younger kids Bible classes. So that's I hope that works out really well, but it's one of those things. And so as we continue to talk about this, how do we as ministers and how do individuals take advantage of the holidays? So I think we've all four kind of hit on this for a second, that you get the opportunity to be in a new place maybe, or at bare minimum, you've got people that you may get to interact with, whether it's kids, college kids, young adults, so on and so forth, that you may only get to see once or twice a year. And so, that's kind of one of the big concepts, what end of the pendulum do you fall on? Are you anti people that only go to church on Christmas and Easter, or do you want to take advantage that you've got the people there at Christmas, even though they're only there Christmas and Easter? Like, so have you guys ever seen that pendulum? I mean,
I know.
I'm just not necessarily within your church, but there are some people there are some people that when you see them, you're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. So are you going to ignore that person because they haven't been there in a while, or are you going to try to take advantage of the opportunity that you got?
Well, so it's kind of unique where I am. 2 congregations of two 10 plus within 10 minutes of each other. Y'all got like 2 congregations of that size within 3 miles?
Yeah, 3 if you branch on over to East Main.
Yeah.
So you got West Main, Gloucester, East Main, and then
we're catching up.
Yeah, man. I meant to ask you, is Skyline officially Tupelo or is it Morville?
It's technically East Tupelo.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not far from East Main at all.
I got you.
So there's, I get maybe it's not so unique because you have it here in Tupelo, but
we're weird though. So.
These are 2 these are 2 country churches that are within and so we swap up members. Like it happens It's happened since Caleb and I have both been. He got there about 6 months before I did, and it's happened since we've been there. We swapped up families, and then at holidays, you have even more of a weird mix. You'll have people who are related who will come and visit at the congregation with the people that they're related to, even though they attend normally. So for me, I don't know if this is somebody who's faithful. I don't know if this is somebody who's coming to church for the 1 out of 3 times they'll be there.
Right.
So I always have to. I feel like I want to stay right on the middle of the pendulum, where I have to be like, where I want to be like, so tell me about yourself. Tell me about, where you go or what are you doing or, and so I try to be kind of I'm going to make sure I introduce myself to them. Kind of.
Well, see, that's the scary part for me as a minister, right? I've been here just a little bit over a year, and so now it's the holidays. I'm deathly afraid I'm gonna walk up and be like, "Hi, I'm Nathan. How are you?" And they're like, "Oh, I've been here the whole time." It's like,
of course I know you.
Snap! I'm sorry. I didn't know that you weren't visiting with us. So
I'm gonna go hide in my office now.
Yeah. So that's one of those things. I know a couple of members here that actually keep a directory in their Bible, so they can flip through it real quick to make sure I know who that is.
I hadn't seen them in a couple of weeks. So. We're able to, we're small enough still, I guess you'd say small enough. We're sitting at about 1 to 110, now. And so I personally know pretty much everybody there. Yeah. And so I'm going to take the time which I always try to be encouraging to whoever comes, and I think the one thing you don't want to do is just put an even worse taste in their mouth. Yeah, to where it just pushes them away even farther. Sure, yeah. And then what are your chances at that point, So if you can go up and you really show that you care about them and that you want them to be there, you care for their soul, I think that could speak wonders to them. So
I think that's got to be the key, right? I mean, you've got to be sure. That's what I tell our kids, don't ever leave a conversation without the hope of another one. Don't ever leave it to where you can't have another conversation.
Yeah.
And I think with our role as youth ministers, I think it can help even more because if you have people bringing their kids and they only come once a year, and you can really touch base with those kids, a lot of times they have a lot of pull with their parents. If the kids are wanting to come to church, sometimes you'll have parents who just write it off and won't ever do it, but
I'll tell you what's an awkward thing to try to do is, so we've got a few members here that one half of the family is really faithful, and the spouse isn't, and so holidays are a big time when you will see the spouse,
right?
And so that's one of those things that you get to approach, and I say get to, like, you have the opportunity to approach that situation. Be like, man, I'm super excited that you're here,
right? Exactly.
I'm glad to see you. I hope that you guys coming back again soon. And so even if 3/4 of the family is there all the time, you get the chance to reach out to that person.
That's exactly right.
And for so long, the narrative was fed, I think, for years in the Lord's church, that you have to, if there's sin or if there's unfaithfulness, that as soon as you see that person, man, you got to address that. That's not relational ministry. That's not, there's absolutely zero effectiveness to as soon as you see somebody saying, all right, time for you to repent. Glad you're here, but time for you to repent.
Bring back the humanity of it.
I was about to say, man, nobody was ever, I say nobody, let me back up. Almost nobody was ever saved in 24 hours.
Right.
I mean, that's a
connection
process.
Has to be made. Yeah,
there's a process that you got to follow, and so I just think it's one of those things. So how do we get families to take advantage of the holidays from either a ministry perspective, or how do we get families to take advantage of maybe the family time that they have or the holidays as a general? The idea that we've talked about it. Sometimes we do focus a little bit more on the giving and the service. So what do we do, or what are some tips that we can give parents?
Well, don't be scared to challenge them. We've been going over some series on Wednesday night, and I told my kids, I said, look, don't be scared to challenge your parents. Right. Because the reality of it is, and Kirk Brothers told us this when I was a free hardman, that the parents are the real youth ministers. We get paid by the church, yeah, but at the end of the day, we're an aid to these parents.
Supplement,
Yeah. We're
for sure.
I mean, they're the real youth ministers. All right, we only get them, a small fraction out of the week. Your parents with them all the time. Yeah. So we've got to, for me, we got to get the parents to understand that their influence is a lot more powerful than they think it is.
Oh yeah.
And then they even realize, because it's easy to get caught up in life and the activities, with work, the kids' activity, and to say, hey, I'm accountable for my kid's soul. We gotta be scared not to challenge them, and I say challenge them loosely.
Yeah.
Not be like, let's debate this. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
Challenge them. Hey, John, are y'all studying? Once a week. Just the simple things. Because if you don't get the parents on board with anything, it's it all comes back to them.
Yeah. Well, you've got to have them on board. You've got to make sure that they know what the expectations are, what to expect,
and what do you as a parent expect from your child spiritually?
Yeah.
And
well, by the time you're with teenagers, sometimes that's almost too late.
Yeah.
To as a parent walk in and say, all right, we're going to start doing this.
Yeah.
Now, I encourage
17
parents.
Years old.
I encourage parents every time that I can to, yes, you start this.
Yeah.
Because better late than never.
For sure.
But something that we've been working on developing, and I may have to get some of you guys to get some input on it, is a family time curriculum, like a family time suggested thing where I write out 52 weeks and say this week here's our family focus, and hand them out, man.
Yeah.
And again, you may hand them out and they may go straight in the trash can.
Yeah.
But at least they have something that they can say, okay, this is what we're supposed to sit down and read this week. And it's just a short thing,
Well, buddy of mine from Covington, his name is Jeff Phillips. Love him to death. He talked with me a little bit about at Rush about this idea that he's going to develop. He's a former educator, and so he's taking the idea of an IEP, which is an individualized education program. He's like, I'm going to sit down with every parent that I've got and make them fill out, meet with me and make them, fill out an IEP, so that they have written down what are your goals for the next year for your kid. What do you want to see? It's not about, because at the same time, Caleb said it, we're just the aid, right? So we can expect something from your kids all day long, but if you don't expect that thing from your kid,
it's never going to happen.
What good are we doing? So it's an idea of trying to get the parents on board with saying, what do you want to see out of your kid? Yeah. What are the goals that you have for your kid over the next year? And it keeps them on file, and so that's why 6 months goes by, he can go be like, look, this is what you wrote down. What have you done to accomplish that goal? Sure. And so. And you know what? Quite frankly, there are going to be some parents that aren't going to be okay with that,
right?
Because there are going to be some parents that don't want to be held responsible for those sort of things.
Well, you're not asking every parent to buy in, but you're giving the opportunity
for sure
for every parent who wants to buy in to have a supplement.
Yeah,
and that's what we are as youth ministers anyway. It's just a supplement to help.
Yeah,
help them get their kids to heaven.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like I said, I think that holidays, you talked about a great time for family time and how we push that so much, but there's no rule that says your family time can't also work in a visit or delivering something, right, or teaching your kids from a little age that, hey, this person just needs to be cheered up, so we're gonna go see them for a second, just cheer them up a little bit today. And I think that's a big thing. I can remember from the time I was really, really little, church where I grew up had something called FIA. They called it Faith in Action. And, it was, you were assigned a visit. Everybody was assigned a visit every month or every quarter. I think it was every month. And I can remember from the time I was really little, my parents would say, all right, we're going to go make our FIA visit now. And I can remember being drugged to the car, kicking and screaming. I didn't and a lot of it was because it was strange for me because half the people we went to visit, I didn't even know who they were.
Yeah.
Right? You know, 6-year-old Nathan had no idea who the 82-year-old man was that sat in the back row at church every once in a while.
Right.
And so I just didn't understand it. And as you grow up, you understand, okay, there was a point to that. You know, there was a need there that my parents wanted, you know, at bare minimum, my parents wanted me to see the good that came out of visiting somebody or taking somebody a plate of cookies or giving your next door neighbor a pie, you know, just to say, hey, I appreciate that you came over and raked my leaves, even though I didn't need you or ask you to.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the beauty of, you know, living, I would say, in the South. And, you know, we talk about the service and the time of year. You know, you get a phone call from so-and-so with the congregation, said, hey, man, listen, I got Mr. So-and-so here, he's down his back, he's about 75. You care to go move the refrigerator for him? You know, so yeah, man, I'll call one of my older boys. We'll go over there. You know, and it's something like that that you get some one-on-one time. And if you call a dad of a kid, say, hey, can you and your boy come over here and help me move this refrigerator? You know, it's an opportunity just for that dad to come in and him say, you know, young lady, the so-and-so go move a couch in her house or something. You know, things like that. A lot of time, and I tell my kids all the time that their influence is powerful, and it's something I try to get in their heads. But to get them to understand the purpose behind that, that the little things like that matter, and this is the perfect time of year to do those things.
Well, and taking advantage when I see parents. So the number one excuse that you're going to hear from kids, be like, hey, will you lead close in prayer for me tonight? The number one excuse that you're going to have from kids is, well, why should I have to do it if my dad doesn't do it? And I'm just, if you will just...
you want to be better than your dad.
I was like, well, it's not even about that. I talked to the parent, I'm like, if you'll just do it. I was like, for no other reason than you take an excuse away from your kid. Like, he can't say, my dad doesn't do that, so I'm not going to do that.
Right.
You know, or my mom's never made cookies for the lady next door, so why do I care that we're taking cookies to the police station? You know, just do it if for no other reason, then you get to take an excuse away from your kid.
Yeah. So your kids notice things like that.
They do.
We don't give them as much credit a lot of times, but they notice the little things.
In all fairness, some things that 17-year-old boys do, you can't give them a whole lot of credit. Like you watch them and you're like, really?
But then you remember, I was 17 once. I had a kid give me an excuse like that one time, and the way that he's ultra competitive. And I said, you do this, and you can go home to your dad and say, hey, look, Dad, look what I did, and you haven't been willing to do that. And now Daddy leads prayer. You know, I'm not with that congregation anymore. Not because of that, but I'm not with that congregation anymore. But Dad's active. Dad's, you know.
Well, a lot of times I need that little bit of a push.
That way.
You do. It's
you know, I need to do this for little man. You know,
it takes a lot for sure.
For sure.
Anyway, so, you know, we just want to be sure that everybody understands there are ways to take advantage of the holidays. It doesn't have to be, you know, you boarding up in your house and you know, driving yourself stir crazy because the kids are home from school and they've decided to break, you know, the 13th thing since in the last 2.5 weeks since they're home. So I don't even know how long Christmas break is anymore, but, you know, I know they get a week at Thanksgiving, they get a couple weeks, I guess a couple weeks at Christmas. So
we have an open house policy for our kids during the times when they're not at school. So it's nothing for in the evenings or in the afternoons after I've left the office for Michelle to call or if I'm home for Michelle to call and say, hey, we've got 3 kids at the house. They showed up. I'm making cookies. You know, what do you want to do? What's the game plan? And I've got one kid. I've got about 8 community kids right now who don't have parents that come, but we pick them up, or I've got kids in the youth group who pick them up and bring them on Sundays and Wednesdays. And Ron and Baby Tank are 2 of them. Ron lives about a quarter of a mile from me, and so about twice a week during the afternoon, I'll hear a knock on my door, and it's Ron with he's biked over with some sort of question or something that he needs help with. We do homework sometimes, and it's so much fun because he's saying, I'm available. Here I am, mold me.
Yeah.
And I think that if the parents would realize, and that's what their kids are saying when they're home for these extended periods of time, even every day.
For sure.
What they're doing is they're looking at parents and saying, here I am, mold me.
Yeah. Well, and I've always been of the opinion kids want to grow way more than I think even ministers give them credit for sometimes. Yeah. And I mean, they do. They want to. And I think that one of the big traps that we fall into sometimes is whether it's a minister or a parent or even it's just society as a whole, we give them too low of expectations. So I think that's kind of helpful. So, take advantage of the holidays. Don't let the expectations be that they're just going to sit at home and play whatever the new video game is for 14 hours on end. So,
is it still Fortnite now?
I was scared to say Fortnite. I think the new
Call of Duty game.
That may be one of those things. But anyway. So real quick as we get off here, because we've been going at this for a little over an hour now. So best and worst Thanksgiving food. What you got, Caleb?
Man, my grandmother's been sick this year, so we don't get her dressing.
Ooh,
so I'm a little, I've been a little down now. But
we'll pray.
But my mother is going to be cooking it. So she learned from the best. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with that. So Mom, if you listen to this, don't hit me with a broom or anything when I get home. But anyways, I'm excited about the dressing, man. I'm hardcore about dressing. Man, I literally like half the pan. I'm talking about the industrial pans.
Oh, okay.
Not the little bitty,
So like, there's a 9x13 at your house just for you.
Oh yeah, pretty much. I love dressing.
Like measuring in his head.
Gravy, no gravy.
Yes and no. I like it both. I mean, I'm not lying to you. I'm a dressing guy, man. But my worst would be cranberry, man. Sauce beets. I'm out. I don't do it.
Does anybody at your family do like the canned cranberry sauce, where like it just you can sit it
pour it out,
pull it out? It's just a big.
They slice it.
It's congealed.
It makes that nice noise as it comes out.
You got to turn your head off another room.
Oh man.
What about you, Abel?
Oh man. So we lost my granddad about. I guess we're coming up on 2 years now. He would make don't sip that coffee.
No, I'll think about it.
He was about to do it. We lost him coming up on 2 years now, and he would make. We lost my grandmother when I was 2, his wife, and he never remarried, and so I had a granddad who could cook. He was a cook in the Navy during World War II. Could make the best biscuits from scratch I've ever eaten. But one thing that he did for Thanksgiving every year was he did several platters of macaroni and cheese. And nobody makes mac and cheese like my granddad. It's I guess really the recipe is pretty simple. It's about 3 different types of cheese and then about 1.5 pounds of pepper.
Yeah, but you could have the recipe word for word and not make it the same.
Yeah.
Well, the daughters, he had 3 daughters, my mom and her 2 sisters. The daughters do a pretty good job. So that's the thing. That and we smoke a turkey and a ham every year, and I'm looking forward to that. Worst though. Oh man. I have to. The cranberry sauce is definitely up there. But there's one. I'm trying to think of what they call it. It's a casserole of some sort that comes together, and it's just not like there's broccoli in it. And
no.
And I'm like, every year I'm like, why is this here?
Yeah. Well, I saw as an article floating around as of like 2018, the number 1 most hated Thanksgiving food, green bean casserole.
It's
I
got
love green bean casserole.
This casserole has green beans and broccoli in it. It's
Yeah.
just like green casserole.
See, I can't.
With the breading.
Yeah.
Double whammy of
Because
it.
I like green beans.
casserole, man.
Man,
Give me some of that.
I can
What
eat
about-
green beans. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
have any
yeah.
problem. But put some of that smoked ham in there and
Yeah.
as you're cooking.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing.
Throwing shade. Jonathan's like, come on, guys.
So what about you? What about you, Jonathan? What's your best and worst?
Yeah, so I was thinking, you're asking a very large guy right now to pick one favorite food. No. So my grandmother makes, I call it pecan roll. I don't know what it's a dessert.
Top
Man.
notch.
I got you.
Oh,
Get on with some
I
of that.
love it. But also I like the brown sugar ham.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
It's just-
And I guess my worst would be, because I like turkey too, but if you don't make it right, if you don't cook it right, it's going to be very dry.
Yeah.
Man,
Don't give me dry turkey.
There ain't nothing
You know
worse
what I
than
mean?
dry
I'll make a
turkey.
side note real quick. I love how we're not throwing like Aunt Joanne.
Yeah, no names are
We're
thrown
being
out.
real careful with it. That's why I went with cranberry to be safe.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to call out family
I
members
just want to
for
throw a
sure.
side note out there real quick.
Although I will say, there's a couple of my family members that make a couple of different types of food that I can't stand.
Yeah.
There are
I
some
would
people
call
that
that the
so
green
like
casserole.
I
I
think
just
it
don't
was.
know who brings it.
Yeah, I think it was.
It may even be my mama.
Yeah, well,
But
see, and I think it was
she
my
needs to
cousin. My cousin Leanne. She made for a family thing. She made a veggie pizza,
Oh.
and it wasn't cooked. Like it was just raw veggies on and branch, and that's not my kind of food. Like
Yeah.
I stay away from that.
Understand.
But my best and worst. So my best, because I'm not super picky. My best though is definitely my mom makes hash brown casserole,
Ooh.
and
yeah.
it's I don't know what she does to it.
Is it cheesy?
I think she slips a little bit of crack in it or something. I mean, it's,
Now we're talking.
Now we're on.
it's amazing.
Addictive.
It is.
Is it cheesy?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
That's
It's
good
cheesy,
stuff, man.
and she doesn't like. I've had hash brown casseroles, and I've gone through it, and I'm like, why is there mushroom in this hash brown casserole? I think somebody made it with like cream and mushroom soup to
Yeah.
help it or whatever.
So-
Weird Tennessee
I
stuff
don't.
right there.
Man, it's weird. I don't like that. My mom's is on point. My worst, and I gotta change it because this came to me right in the middle of all this. So I told you guys that it would be the sweet potato casserole.
Yeah.
I could handle eating the sweet potato. If I had to choose, you have to eat
Yeah.
this or this. I can handle the sweet potato casserole.
Okay.
I don't touch deviled eggs.
I could,
Really?
I could get
That
on board
is
with that. I'll do that.
worst Thanksgiving food at both Thanksgivings.
Yeah.
No matter who makes it, and my mom makes deviled eggs, and I don't know who else makes deviled eggs, but I don't care who makes it. I don't touch deviled eggs.
I'm not
It's
so with you.
disgusting.
You bring
So-
up an interesting point, and the deviled eggs is what sold me on this. I'd forgotten about this particular dish, and it takes the cake over the cranberry sauce, over the green whatever it is casserole. Somebody in my family makes potato salad every year at Thanksgiving,
Oh.
and every year I think maybe it'll be good. Because there is such a good,
Oh yeah,
there's such a thing as good
there's
potato salad,
good
right?
there's good
Potato
potato
salad.
salad, and there's bad potato salad.
And every year I take a bite and I think, why do I hate myself? I keep doing this.
It's like that
you know?
meme of that
Yeah.
picture. He's like, why?
Yeah. Why?
Why?
So like I said, mine's absolutely deviled eggs.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I get
but
it.
guys, thank you guys for being
Absolutely.
here. We're glad that you guys can make
Had a
it
good
down.
time.
We will post another one coming up in December. I think I got Joshua Houston coming down from Murfreesboro to talk with us a little bit.
Oh, get
Every
the
once in a
auctioneer.
while, Caleb and I can make the argument that maybe we're not the dumbest guys in the room.
Yes.
When this guy comes down, there's no contest. Like,
Yeah.
we're the dumbest guys in the room if he's going to be on the show with us. So we're excited. But from all of us here at 662 Roundtable, we hope that you guys have an awesome holiday season. Be sure to take advantage of it, and we'll get back to you next month. Thanks, guys.